The night was cruel. The wind cut through the empty streets like a knife. Snow fell in heavy silence, covering the ground in white. The town slept. Lights in houses were warm behind closed curtains, but outside, the world was frozen. She walked alone. The alien woman moved slowly, each step heavy, her body weak. Her skin was pale blue, almost glowing in the dark, but the glow was fading. Her clothes were torn, nothing more than scraps. She was freezing. Her thin hands trembled as she pulled the cloth closer around herself. But it was no use. The cold bit through her bones. She looked human. Almost. From a distance, a person might think she was just another poor homeless woman wandering in the storm. But closer, her differences were clear. Her eyes glowed faintly, like two stars. Her face carried strange patterns, lines that moved softly under her skin, shifting like water. She was not of this world. Her breath came in gasps. Every exhale turned into mist. She needed warmth. She needed food. Most of all, she needed kindness. She reached a small house. The window glowed with soft yellow light. She could smell something soup, maybe, or bread. Her body ached with hunger, with shaking fingers. She lifted her hand and knocked, knock, knock. For a moment, she hoped. For a moment, she dreamed someone might open, someone might help. The door cracked open. A woman stood there, her face hard. Her eyes widened at the sight of the alien. Fear crossed her face, then disgust. Without a word, the door slammed shut. The alien woman lowered her head. She whispered, "Please." But no one listened. She turned away and kept walking. The second door. The third. The fourth, every door the same. A crack open. A glimpse of her strange face. A flash of fear. Then the door slammed shut. Her heart broke with every sound of wood closing by the 10th door. Her hope was almost gone. Her body shook harder now. Her lips were purple. Her legs weak. The snow swallowed her footsteps. Still, she kept going. Knock, knock, 17th door. A tall man opened. He stared. His eyes narrowed. Then his hand pushed the door shut. 17 doors. 17 hearts that said no. Her knees gave way. She fell into the snow, her hands sinking into the cold powder. Tears burned her eyes, freezing on her cheeks. She was too weak to cry loudly, too weak to call out. Her mind whispered, "This is the end." But then she saw it. A small house at the edge of the street. The 18th door. Her breath rattled. Every part of her body screamed to stop, to give up, to let the cold take her. But something inside pushed her forward. A thin spark of survival, a thin spark of hope. She stood, though her legs shook like broken branches. Step by step, she dragged herself across the frozen street. Her arms hung heavy. Her chest hurt. Her heart was slow. At last, she reached it, the 18th door. She lifted her hand. Her knuckles brushed the wood. Her strength was almost gone. Knock, just once. Weak, soft, almost nothing. She waited. Seconds passed. Her vision blurred. Her body swayed. Darkness pressed at the edge of her eyes. She whispered, so soft only the night could hear, "Please." Not this door, too. The lock clicked. The door opened. Warm light spilled out into the snow. Her eyes lifted slowly. A man stood in the doorway. His face was young, his eyes kind but cautious. He looked down at her, this strange, broken figure, standing in the storm. He saw her blue skin. He saw her glowing eyes. He saw her trembling hands, and unlike the others, he did not close the door. The alien woman's lips parted. Her voice broke, a whisper, "Help." Then her body gave way, falling forward. The man's arms reached out. catching her before she hit the ground. The snow kept falling. The night stayed cold, but inside that door, something changed. Something human. Something that would decide her. Coldest. The man's arms caught her before she could fall. Her body was light, too light, as if only bones and frozen skin remained. He pulled her inside quickly, shutting the door against the storm. The sudden silence inside the house was heavy. Only the sound of his own fast breathing filled the air. For a moment, he just stood there, holding her. Her skin was ice cold, colder than anything he had ever touched. He laid her down gently on a worn sofa near the fire. The fire burned low, a quiet glow of orange and red. Its warmth reached her skin, and steam rose faintly from her wet hair. Her chest moved slowly, shallow breaths, almost too weak to notice. The man crouched near her. His eyes searched her face. At first glance, she looked human, fragile, exhausted, and hurt. But then the details became clear. The strange pale blue skin. The faint glow in her eyes, even closed. The shifting lines under her skin, moving like waves. He whispered to himself, "What? Are you?" The woman stirred. Her lips moved, dry and cracked. A whisper came out, broken but clear. "Thank you." Her voice was soft, different, like music played too slowly, trembling in the air. The man swallowed hard. He did not know what he had brought into his home. Fear scratched the back of his mind. What if she was dangerous? What if others came looking for her? But another thought fought back. 17 doors had closed. He couldn't be the 18th. He rose and hurried into the kitchen. His hands shook as he poured water into a glass. He carried it back and lifted her head carefully, letting her sip. Her throat moved, each swallow painful, but she drank. Then he brought bread. She ate slowly, like each bite was a battle. He could see she was starving. The man sat across from her, watching. His heart was loud in his chest. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Her glowing eyes opened, meeting his. For a moment, silence hung between them. The fire cracked. The wind howled against the window outside. Finally, she spoke just 2 words. I'm lost." Her accent was strange, her words broken, but clear enough. He leaned forward. "Lost where? From where?" She looked down, pulling the blanket tighter around her thin frame. She shook her head. Fear crossed her face. The man realized she would not tell him yet. "Not now," he sighed, rubbing his hands over his face. His name was Daniel, but he did not tell her that. Something in his chest warned him, be careful. Not all trust should be given at once. Still, he stood and said softly, "You are safe here." At least tonight, the alien woman looked at him with wide eyes. It was not just gratitude in them, it was disbelief. As if she could not understand why he would let her stay. She whispered again, "Safe," tasting the word as if it was new to her. Daniel nodded. He moved to the fire, adding more wood. Flames leaped higher, filling the small room with warmth. Shadows danced on the walls, but they felt softer now, not so sharp. The woman leaned back against the sofa. Her body was still weak, but the fire began to bring color to her face. Her eyelids grew heavy, though her glowing eyes still flickered with unease. Daniel sat in a chair near the sofa. He watched her carefully. Questions filled his mind. What was she? Where had she come from? And what danger followed her? But he said nothing more. For now, it was enough that she was alive. The room grew quiet, except for the crackle of fire. Snow pressed against the windows, but inside, there was warmth. For the first time in many nights, the alien woman closed her eyes without fear. Sleep took her quickly, though her hands clutched the blanket as if afraid it would be taken away. Daniel leaned back, arms crossed, staring at the ceiling. He wondered what he had just done. He wondered what tomorrow would bring, and yet deep inside he knew he had done the right thing. 17. Doors had shut her out. His had not. That made all the difference. The storm outside raged through the night. Wind clawed at the windows. Snow piled higher against the door. But inside, the little house was quiet. The fire burned steady now, throwing soft orange light across the room. The alien woman woke slowly. Her body was still weak, but warmth had returned to her skin. She opened her glowing eyes, blinking at the ceiling. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the human. Daniel sat in a chair, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. He had not slept. His eyes were heavy, but sharp, watching her. A stranger in his home. A secret breathing under his roof. She pulled the blanket tighter, sitting up slowly. Her eyes met his, full of caution. "You are awake," Daniel said. His voice was calm, low, but not without weight. She nodded. Her lips were still dry, her voice faint. Yes. For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire cracked. Shadows moved. Finally, Daniel stood. He walked to the kitchen and returned with a bowl warm broth, steam rising from it. He set it on the table beside her. "Eat," he said simply. She stared at the bowl, then at him. Her glowing eyes studied his face. Was it a trick? Was this another test, another door ready to slam shut? Her hands trembled as she reached forward. She lifted the spoon slowly, sipping the broth. Warmth spread through her body. She closed her eyes for a moment. For the first time in what felt like forever, she felt alive. Daniel watched in silence. He saw the way she ate, careful, slow, as if each bite could be her last. Hunger was written across her thin frame, across the shaking of her fingers. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was stronger now. Though still soft, Daniel leaned back in his chair. His arms crossed. His eyes narrowed slightly. "You said last night you were lost." "Lost from where?" Her body stiffened. She gripped the blanket tighter. Silence stretched between them. Daniel waited. He was patient, but inside, questions screamed in his head. Who was she? What danger followed her? At last, she spoke, but not the answer he expected. "Why help me?" Her words hung heavy. Her eyes glowed brighter in the dim room, staring at him, searching. Daniel frowned. "Why, yes," she said. 17 doors closed. You opened. Why? Daniel let out a breath. He looked away from her, toward the fire. Because it was the right thing to do. Her head tilted, confused. Right. He nodded. You were freezing, dying. I couldn't just leave you. Her lips parted slightly. She whispered the word as if it was strange to her. Couldn't? For a moment, her face softened. Something broke in her expression, fear slipping away, replaced by something like wonder. She lowered her eyes. Then, quietly, almost like a secret. No one ever says that. Not for me. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to ask more. He wanted to know everything, what she was, where she came from, what hunted her. But he saw the fear in her shoulders, the way she curled into the blanket, small and fragile. So he said nothing more. Not yet. Instead, he stood and placed another log on the fire. The flames leaped higher. He turned back and said, "Rest. You are safe here tonight." Her eyes lifted again, studying his face, searching for any sign of a lie. She found none. Slowly, she nodded. Her body relaxed, just a little. Her head leaned back against the sofa, but as her eyes closed, her lips moved. A whisper escaped, a language Daniel had never heard. Strange, soft, like music twisted by wind. Her body shivered, caught in some dream. Daniel leaned closer, frowning. Her words made no sense, but the sound was filled with fear. She jerked awake suddenly, our glowing eyes wide with panic. Daniel stepped back, raising his hands. "It's okay," he said quickly. "You're safe." Just a dream. Her chest rose and fell fast. Her hands clutched the blanket as if it was a shield. Then, slowly, she calmed. She whispered, "Dream." "No, memory." Daniel froze. He wanted to ask, but her eyes begged him not to. Not yet. He nodded, stepping back. "All right," he said softly. "Rest." The alien woman closed her eyes again. This time, though her body trembled, she did not fight sleep. Daniel watched her. His heart was heavy with questions, but one truth burned brighter than all of them. Trust was being born here. Fragile, small, but real, and trust was the most dangerous thing of all. The house was quiet. Only the fire's crackle broke the silence. Snow pressed hard against the windows, but inside there was stillness. Daniel sat in his chair, fighting sleep. He had promised himself he would watch her all night. He did not know why fear, maybe, or responsibility. He had let her in, and now he had to carry that choice. The alien woman slept uneasily on the sofa. Her body curled under the blanket, her face soft but restless. Her glowing eyes flickered behind her lids as if even in dreams she could not rest. Then it began, a whisper slipped from her lips, soft at first. Strange words, twisted sounds that no human tongue could make. Her voice trembled, rising and falling like music from another world. Daniel leaned forward. His chest tightened. He had heard her speak before, but this was different. Not broken English. Not the simple lost or thank you. This was her true language. The sound was beautiful and terrifying. Her body shook. Her hands gripped the blanket tight. The whispers grew louder, almost frantic. "No. No. Stop. Don't take me." She gasped, mixing English with her alien tongue. Daniel's heart raced. He stood quickly, moving to her side. "Hey, wake up." Her eyes snapped open, glowing bright, brighter than before, like twin lanterns in the dark. She sat up, chest heaving, sweat on her skin despite the cold. Daniel stepped back, startled. For a moment, he thought she might attack, but she only stared at him, wide-eyed, afraid. Not of him, but of something else. Her lips trembled. "They are coming." Daniel frowned. "Who?" She shook her head, tears shining in her strange eyes. "Hunters. My people." "No, not my people. Soldiers. They will find me. They always find me." The words fell heavy in the small room. Daniel tried to make sense of it. Soldiers. Hunters. He had no idea what kind of world she came from, but he knew one thing whatever she ran from was not small. "Why are they after you?" he asked carefully. Her head dropped. She pulled the blanket tighter, as if hiding inside it. For a long time, she said nothing. Only the sound of her shaky breath filled the silence. Daniel waited. He was patient, but his eyes stayed on her, steady, not letting her drift back into silence. Finally, she spoke. "I refused," she whispered. "They wanted me to fight, to kill, to burn villages on other worlds. I ran. I could not do it. I would rather freeze than become like them." Her voice broke. She looked up, meeting his eyes. "And so they hunt me, to punish me." To make an example, Daniel felt his throat tightened. He was just one man, living in a small house on a quiet street. He had no power, no army, no weapon against whatever monsters she spoke of. But still, something in her words struck deep. "You ran." "Because you couldn't kill," he said slowly. She nodded. Her glowing eyes shimmered with tears. Yes. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. Then he sat back down in his chair, rubbing his face with his hands. God, what have I brought into my house? He muttered. She flinched at his words. Her shoulders sank. If you want me to leave, I will, she whispered. Better the snow than another door closed. Daniel lifted his head sharply. His eyes locked on hers. I didn't say that. Silence stretched between them again, heavy, filled with something fragile. He leaned forward. His voice low, firm. Listen. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you've done or who is after you. But last night, I saw you fall in the snow. If I hadn't opened the door, you'd be dead. Her lips parted, but no words came. Daniel continued. So you're here. And until I decide otherwise, you stay. Understand? Her eyes widened. She nodded slowly. Then, for the first time, a small sound escaped her lips, something like a laugh, though broken, unsure. You? Human? Strange. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Strange? Yes, she said softly. Most would give me to the hunters, to save themselves. You? Keep me here. Even though it is dangerous. Daniel leaned back, folding his arms. Maybe I'm just stupid. Her glowing eyes studied him. Then, with a trembling smile, she whispered, or maybe. Human. The fire popped, sending sparks into the air. Daniel said nothing, but his chest felt heavy. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew this. The secret was out. She was no ordinary wanderer. She was prey, running from hunters that would cross worlds to find her. And now, by opening his door, he had become part of her story. The next night fell heavy. The storm had passed, but the cold remained sharp. Snow glittered under the moonlight, covering the street like a frozen sea. The town was quiet. To quiet inside the small house, Daniel tried to keep his mind steady. He had given her food again. He had watched her sleep again. And he had asked himself again and again the same question. What have I done? The alien woman, wrapped in a blanket, sat close to the fire. Her glowing eyes were dim, tired, but she seemed calmer than the night before. She whispered now and then, words in her strange language, as if speaking to ghosts. Daniel leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He studied her. She had told him about the hunter soldiers from another world who chased her because she refused to kill. He believed her, though part of him wished it was all a nightmare. But nightmares do not knock on doors. And that was what came next. It began with a hum. Soft, low, almost like wind, but not wind. Daniel frowned, tilting his head. The alien woman's eyes widened. She froze, then came the light. A faint glow outside the window, moving slowly down the street. White, cold, not like the warm glow of human lamps. It passed from house to house, stopping at each one for a breath before moving on. Daniel's chest tightened. His hands curled into fists. The woman whispered. Voice shaking, "They are here." The words struck him like a stone. Daniel moved to the window carefully. He parted the curtain just a little. Outside, the snow shone under a pale beam. The light scanned the ground, moving side to side. Shadows stretched long and strange. Then he saw them. Figures in the snow, tall, too tall. Their bodies wrapped in dark armor, their heads covered by smooth helmets with glowing lines. They moved in silence, their steps leaving no sound. Hunter's Daniel let the curtain fall. His heart pounded. The woman clutched the blanket tighter. Her voice was barely a whisper. Please, don't give me away. Daniel looked at her. For a moment, he wanted to say nothing. To tell her this wasn't his fight. To tell her he was only one man, and she was not his problem. But then he remembered. 17 doors had closed. His had not. He drew a long breath. "Stay quiet," he said firmly. Her glowing eyes locked on his. She nodded, though her hands shook. The hum outside grew louder. The light passed over the window, filling the room with a pale glow. Daniel held his breath. He thought he could hear his own heart louder than the sound. Then dash knock. The sound was sharp, heavy, echoing through the small house. Daniel froze. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Knock, knock. Stronger this time. Open, a voice commanded from outside. It was deep, metallic, carried by some machine. Not human. Not natural. Daniel swallowed hard. He moved to the door slowly. He turned to the woman one last time. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." She pressed herself into the sofa, holding her breath. Daniel put his hand on the knob. He opened the door just a little. A figure stood there. Taller than any man, armored in black, its helmet glowing faint white. The snow did not touch it. The air around it seemed to bend like heat above fire. "Have you seen her?" the voice asked, cold and metallic. Daniel forced his face steady. "Seen who?" The hunter tilted its head as if studying him. Then it raised a device. A beam of light swept past Daniel, through the doorway, into the house. The beam reached the sofa. The woman closed her eyes, forcing herself still, hidden in shadow. Daniel's throat tightened. His hands shook, but he did not move. After a long pause, the hunter lowered the device. "If she comes here, you will tell us." Daniel's jaw clenched. He nodded once. Of course, the hunter stared at him a moment longer. Then it turned and walked away, silent as falling snow. Daniel shut the door quickly. He pressed his back against it, breathing hard. His whole body shook with the weight of what he had just done. The woman rose slowly, her glowing eyes wide, tears running down her face. "You lied for me?" Daniel met her gaze. His voice was low, rough. "Yeah," her lips trembled. "Why?" He looked away, toward the fire. He had no answer that made sense. Not for himself, but deep inside, he knew. Some things could not be explained. Some things were simply human. The hunters did not leave the street. Daniel peeked through the curtain. Their pale beams moved slowly across the snow, scanning, searching. The air outside was heavy, too still, as if the night itself held its breath. Inside, the alien woman stood near the fire, clutching the blanket like a shield. Her glowing eyes flicked toward the door again and again. Fear lived in her every movement. "They will return," she whispered. "They always return." Daniel turned from the window. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. "Then let them," he said. Her lips parted, shocked. "You do not understand. They will search. They will find me. And they will not let you live either." Daniel held her gaze. His voice was firm. "Then I'll give them a fight they won't forget." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, softly, almost broken, "Why risk everything?" "For me?" He didn't answer. He didn't know how to. Instead, he moved to the fire, grabbed the poker, and pressed it into the flames. The iron glowed red. The woman watched, eyes wide. Moments later, the knock came again. This time, it was not a simple knock. It was a pounding, each strike shaking the door. "Open," the metallic voice commanded. Now, Daniel's chest rose and fell once. He placed the hot iron back by the fire. Then he walked to the door. His steps were slow, steady. He opened it. The same tall figure stood outside, pale light spilling from its helmet. Behind it, two more hunters waited in silence, their armor reflecting the moonlight. "You lied," the first one said. Its voice was sharper now, edged with threat. She is here. Daniel's face did not move. His voice was calm. You searched? You found nothing. The hunter stepped closer. Its height cast a shadow over him. The glow of its helmet lit Daniel's face, cold and merciless. You protect her. Why? Daniel's heartbeat was wild, but his voice did not shake. Because she knocked on my door. Because I opened it? That's enough. The hunter tilted its head. A sound, almost like laughter but hollow, came from the machine's voice. Foolish. She is not your kind. She is an enemy. Hand her over, or we will take her hand, burn your house to ash. For a moment, Daniel felt the weight of those words press against his chest. He could almost see the fire, smell the smoke, hear the screams that might come. He could feel fear pulling at him, begging him to step aside. But another thought burned stronger. 17 doors had closed. His would not. He stepped forward, closer to the hunter until their faces were only inches apart. His voice dropped to a low growl. You want her? Then come inside. But I promise you, if you cross this door, you won't leave the same. The hunter froze. The air between them burned with silence. Behind Daniel, the woman gasped softly. Her glowing eyes shimmered with something new, not fear this time, but awe. The hunters did not move. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind. Then the first one straightened, its helmet tilting as if reassessing. This is not finished, it said coldly. We will return. Without another word, it turned. The others followed. Their light swept the snow once more, then faded as they moved down the street. Swallowed by the night, Daniel closed the door, leaning against it. His hands shook now, the adrenaline breaking loose. He dragged a hand across his face. Letting out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding Dot behind him, the alien woman whispered. You stood against them. Daniel turned slowly. His eyes met hers. Yeah, and I'll do it again. Her lips trembled. A tear slid down her cheek, catching the glow of her eyes. She whispered, No human. No one has ever done this for me. Daniel shook his head. Then you've met the wrong humans. The fire cracked loudly, filling the silence that followed. For the first time, she stepped closer to him. She placed a trembling hand on his arm. Her skin was cool, but her touch carried something heavy, something unspoken. In that moment, the fear between them broke. Something else took its place. Trust. Dot outside, the night was not safe. The hunters would come again, stronger, crueler, determined. But inside the small house, something stronger had been born. A stand, and the hunters had felt it. The night stretched long after the hunters left. The hum of their machines had faded, but the memory of them lingered in the air like smoke. Inside the small house, Daniel sat by the fire, his hands still trembling from the stand he had taken. He could not forget the sight of those glowing helmets, the weight of their threat. He knew they would return. He knew this was only the beginning. But for now, the house was quiet. The alien woman sat across from him, her glowing eyes locked on his face. She had not moved since the hunters left. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly, as if afraid it might vanish, as if afraid he might change his mind. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. You stood for me. Daniel's eyes lifted to hers. He said nothing. She swallowed hard. 17 doors closed. They saw me and shut me out. But you. Her voice broke. You opened. You risked everything. Why? The question hung in the air, heavy, waiting. Daniel leaned forward slowly, resting his arms on his knees. His voice was calm, steady. Because you knocked. Her brows furrowed, confused. Because I knocked? Yes, Daniel said. You needed help. You were freezing. You were dying. What kind of man would I be if I turned you away?" The woman shook her head, tears shimmering in her eyes. "You don't understand. On my world, kindness is weakness. To help a stranger is to invite death. No one would have done what you did. No one." Daniel's gaze hardened. "Then your world is wrong." She flinched at his words, but he continued. His voice carried the weight of something more than himself. "On this world, we aren't perfect. We can be cruel. We can be selfish. But we can also choose. We can choose to stand, even when we're afraid. We can choose to protect, even when it costs us. That's what makes us human." Silence fell. The fire crackled. The snow whispered against the window. The alien woman's tears slid down her cheeks. Her lips trembled. "And you chose me." Daniel nodded once. "Yes, I chose to open the door." Her breath caught. She lowered her head, her shoulders shaking. For so long she had carried fear, shame, and loneliness. For so long she had believed no one would ever see her as anything but prey. But here, in this small human house, someone had chosen differently. Slowly, she stood. The blanket fell around her feet. She crossed the room with unsteady steps until she stood before him. Her glowing eyes shimmered like twin stars, filled with tears and wonder. She whispered, "Maybe. Maybe your kind is stronger than mine." Daniel met her gaze. His voice was soft but firm. Not stronger, just human. The words hit her harder than any weapon. She covered her face with her hands, weeping silently. But this time, her tears were not only of fear, they carried something else. Relief. Hope. Daniel stood and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. She lowered her hands, looking at him with glowing eyes that no longer held only fear. In that moment, she believed. Outside, the snow fell quiet. The hunters would return. Danger would come. But something had changed. The 18th door had opened, and inside, humanity had proven itself. Ending beat suspense for next episode later. As the fire burned low, Daniel checked the window one last time. The street was empty, but he knew it wouldn't be for long. He turned back to the woman. She was watching him, her glowing eyes softer now, filled with trust. "Rest," he said. "Tomorrow, we plan." Her lips curved into the smallest of smiles. A fragile smile. A human smile. And for the first time, she whispered his name. Daniel, as if it was the safest word she had ever spoken. The hunters might come again. The war might follow her across the stars. But now, she was not alone, because on this world, one man had chosen to open the door, and that made all the difference.